Welcome to Portugal Property Insider, brought to you by the expert team at Private Luxury Collection. If you're thinking about buying, investing, or relocating to Portugal, especially the Algarve, you're in the right place. We cut through the noise to bring you straight-talking insights on luxury real estate, legal updates, market trends, and everything you need to make smart property decisions from abroad. Whether you're a first-time buyer, a seasoned investor, or simply dreaming of a life in the sun, this is your trusted guide to navigating Portugal's high-end property market, one conversation at a time.
Welcome back to Portugal Property Insider, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on buying, selling, and investing in Portugal's most desirable destinations. I'm Lorraine Hodges, part of the team here at Private Luxury Collection, and today we're diving into a genuinely hot topic, one that has significantly reshaped the Portuguese real estate landscape over the last 12 to 18 months. Short-term letting and the evolving rules around the Alojamento Local, or AL for short. So, if you've been wondering whether regions like the Algarve are still open for business when it comes to short-term rentals, or if your investment strategy for Portugal needs a serious pivot, this episode is designed to be your comprehensive roadmap. It's crucial to understand the nuances, as relying on outdated information could lead to costly mistakes. So let's start with the fundamental shift that occurred. In late 2023, Portugal passed significant legislation under the Mais Habitação, or the More Housing Package. This initiative was primarily aimed at addressing the pressing issue of housing affordability, especially in urban areas and regions experiencing high tourist pressure. A significant component of this reform included a much stricter approach to short-term rental licenses, what we commonly refer to as AL licenses. Now, here's the key, and it's a critical distinction. As of early 2024, new AL licenses are generally not being granted in residential zones of designated housing pressure areas. This blanket suspension includes the vast majority of Lisbon, Porto, and indeed substantial part of the Algarve's coastal and most popular regions. It was a clear signal from the government to prioritise long-term residential housing. However, it's not a complete shutdown. If you already possess a valid AL licence prior to these changes, you can generally continue to operate your short-term rental. But this continuity now comes with new conditions. There's typically a renewal requirement every 5 years, and existing licenses are subject to significantly tighter regulations and oversight by municipal authorities. The intent being this is to bring greater control and accountability to the sector. Furthermore, the Mais Habitação package introduced a notable incentive for owners, a tax benefit for those who voluntarily convert their AL-registered properties into long-term rentals. This can offer substantial capital gains exemption if you commit to long-term rental for a specific period, aiming to increase the housing supply. Crucially, there's also a lesser-known but vital financial implication regarding capital gains tax for properties that have been active with ALs. If you sell a property that has been registered as Alojamento Local, either while it's still active or within 3 years of ceasing AL activity, you face a different, less favourable capital gains tax calculation. In this scenario, 95% of your net capital gain, and that is the profit from the sale after deducting allowable costs, it is then subject to taxation, as opposed to the standard 50% for properties not with the AL licence. This can significantly increase your tax liability on a sale and is a critical factor to consider in your investment strategy. It highlights the government's intent to discourage short-term rental speculation in residential areas. So with these national level changes, where does that leave us when it comes to new AL licenses? The good news is that not all municipalities are applying these rules in the same stringent way, and certain property types or locations remain viable for new AL licenses. For example, in many genuinely rural parishes, non-urban zones, or areas that haven't been officially designated as high-pressure tourist zones, you can still apply and obtain new AL licenses. This often includes many charming inland Algarve villages, as well as parts of the Silver Coast and other less densely populated regions of Portugal. This decentralisation means due diligence is paramount. If you're currently evaluating a property with short-term rentals as part of your investment return strategy, you must diligently check two things with the local expert guidance. Firstly, the specific zoning of the property. Is it designated as residential, or does it fall under a tourist, commercial or mixed-use classification? Properties explicitly zoned for tourism, such as those within purpose-built tourist developments, like resorts or apart hotels, are generally exempt from the AL restrictions imposed on residential properties. And secondly, the municipal AL map. Every local council, which is the Câmara Municipal, now has the autonomy to develop and enforce its own specific AL licence zoning policy. What is permitted in one parish or municipality might be strictly prohibited just a few kilometres away. You cannot rely on a blanket assumption. At Private Luxury Collection, we help our clients navigate this complex municipal landscape, because what might appear online to be a dreamy rental property could, in reality, be a significant legal and financial headache waiting to happen if you don't confirm its AL viability before purchase. Now, if short-term letting for individual owners is off the table in your area of interest, or if you simply prefer a less hands-on approach, what are your alternative options for generating that rental income? Let's talk strategy beyond traditional AL. Medium-term lets. This sector has exploded in popularity and offers a compelling alternative. We're talking about stays typically ranging from 3 to 6 months. This market is largely driven by digital nomads, remote workers, families temporarily relocating to Portugal, or individuals awaiting a long-term rental or property purchase. These tenants aren't tourists, they're transitioners, seeking a stable, comfortable accommodation. The advantages are clear. Less wear and tear on your property, longer occupancy rates, and typically fewer stringent legal constraints compared to the short-term tourist rentals. Demand here is incredibly strong, particularly in areas with good infrastructure and expat communities. Long-term rentals. This is a straightforward option, and with Portugal's continued housing shortage, demand remains robust across various price points, especially for quality properties in prime locations in the Algarve, like Vilamoura, Lule, or Tavira, often in the €2,000 to €4,000 per month bracket. Long-term rentals offer maximum stability and minimal management effort, though yields are typically lower than a high-performing short-term rental. Partnering with a licensed rental agent. If your primary interest is still in short-term tourist rentals, but your property or location doesn't allow for a new individual AL license, there's still a compliant pathway. You can explore placing your property with a professional rental agency that holds its own license for operating tourist rentals. These agencies often manage entire buildings or portfolios of properties and operate under different licensing frameworks. For example, as a Turismo no Espaço Rural or part of a larger tourist complex. They would then enter into a long-term management contract with you for your property, taking on the responsibility for legal compliance, marketing, bookings and operations. This offloads the regulatory burden from you as the individual owner. And lastly, non-commercial use for friends and family. It's also worth clarifying that using your property to host friends and family is perfectly fine and not subject to AL regulations, provided you are not collecting any income or remuneration as a result. The AL rules apply specifically to commercial activity involving temporary accommodation for a fee. These alternative models allow for diverse investment strategies that align with the current regulatory environment. So let's get real about the numbers and the mindset shift required for investing in Portugal today. Short-term letting used to be seen as a goldmine, offering superior yields. But with increased regulation, you now have to be carefully weigh the potential yield against the inherent risks of policy changes and the additional administrative burden. For new investors entering the market, this absolutely means a fundamental mindset shift. You're not just buying a house, you're buying into a complex, evolving regulatory environment. And that environment is undoubtedly getting tighter around short-term tourist traffic, especially in Portugal's most saturated areas. But that absolutely does not mean investing in Portugal real estate is any less attractive overall. It just means your strategy has to involve focusing on sustainability and compliance. Here's what we're advising our clients at Private Luxury Collection. Look for properties in tourism-zoned areas that are specifically exempt from the residential AL restrictions. These might be within dedicated resorts, tourist villages, or areas designated for hospitality development. Consider mixed-use developments where short-term letting explicitly permitted by design. Explore mid- and long-term rental returns in well-connected towns with robust expat infrastructure where demand from stable tenants is high. Or if your primary driver for purchasing is lifestyle and personal enjoyment, plan to enjoy the property yourself. And if you choose to rent it out, ensure it's done through a fully compliant licensed agency or for truly non-commercial purposes. The key is making informed decisions based on accurate, up-to-date information, not just historical performance. And here's an action plan. If you're currently holding an AL property, if you're actively searching for one and short-term letting is part of your investment thesis, here's your essential plan. Review your current AL license status immediately. If you have an existing license, confirm if you're due for renewal under the new 5-year rule and ensure all documentation is up to date. Secondly, speak directly with your local council. It's called the Câmara Municipal. Do not rely on hearsay or general online articles. The specific rules and enforcement vary significantly by parish and municipality. get official clarification for your specific property and location. Re-evaluate your return expectations and strategy. Is your AL still viable given the new regulations and increased tax implications? Or would a medium-term or long-term rental strategy offer more stability and less regulatory risk? And critically, talk to an expert. Seriously, the regulatory landscape around AL is simply too fluid and too complex to navigate without specialised legal and strategic guidance. A qualified legal professional and a knowledgeable real estate advisor can help you understand your specific situation and the best path forward. At Private Luxury Collection, we pride ourselves on being more than just property brokers. We're advising on comprehensive strategy, and that includes in-depth insights into rental viability, yield modelling, legal compliance, and the critical tax implications we've discussed today. So, is short-term letting dead in Portugal? Not entirely, but it's definitely not the free-for-all it used to be. The key takeaway from today's episode is this: regulation is here to stay and it's getting more sophisticated. But with the right knowledge, strategic planning and professional support, your investment in Portugal can still perform beautifully and compliantly. If you'd like to understand precisely what's still possible for your specific situation, or to explore the best performing and most compliant rental strategies in 2025, I encourage you to book a clarity consultation with our expert team. We'll walk you through what works, where it works, and how to make it work for you. You'll find the link in the show notes or simply visit privateluxurycollection.com. I'm Lorraine Hodges. Thanks for listening to Portugal Property Insider. Until next time, happy investing.